I waited until the children fell asleep. My hands were shaking uncontrollably, so I washed the dishes just to keep them busy. She came in after her shower, her hair damp, wearing a loose shirt, the embodiment of that casual intimacy that used to make my heart ache with love. Now it just made me feel sick. She went to the refrigerator, took out a bottle of wine, and poured a glass, just for herself. "Want some?" she asked, not looking at me. "No," I said. "Sit down." With my free hand, I made a gesture with a double meaning. She turned around, sensing it, the tone in my voice, businesslike without any affection. "Is something wrong?" she asked, not concerned, just cautious, as if she already knew. I took my phone out of my pocket and threw it on the counter. The screen was still lit. Her text messages with Matt were open. Her face fell, no confusion, no attempts to deny it. Her mouth opened slightly, as if she was about to say something, but the words wouldn't come out. "How long?" I asked. She slowly pulled out a chair, sat down across from me, and stared at the floor. "It was just one night," she said. "Bullshit. I swear." I cut her off, reading the highlighted messages back to her. "I can't wait to feel you again." "I read everything," I said, my voice growing deeper, more accusatory. "I know what he did to you, what you did to him, for him, what you never did for me. I know where. I know how many times. How many times you called him daddy, and he called you his whore while I was on a business trip 3 time zones away, sleep-deprived and just wanting you, trying to talk, trying to be close in any way I could, but you were just too tired." She closed her eyes. Her lips trembled. I wanted to knock the glass off the table, but I didn't. Although the thought of the broken glass and her momentary fear might have comforted me a little, I felt it would be petty. I wanted to scream. I wanted my eye to break away from my body, just to be someone else, someone to whom this wasn't happening. I wanted her fear to equal the pain I was feeling, but I didn't. Instead, I leaned forward, resting my elbows on the table, and spoke as if reading an obituary. "In our kitchen, Emma, where I taught our daughter how to make pancakes, where I held you in my arms while you cried after your father died, and you bent over this island and let him treat you like a toy, and then you wiped the table and made dinner for our children as if nothing had happened." She looked up, her eyes narrowed, defensive, angry. "I needed something. I needed to feel alive again. You haven't touched me in months. You barely look at me unless it's about shopping or who's picking up the kids from school. You haven't let me touch you in months, and thank God I know what I know now." I parried, my voice sounding confident but still calm. "Every time I tried, you were either too tired, or not in the mood, or had to leave early, or something else. Any excuse, damn it. And now you want to be the victim? That was your decision? That was your new discovery about yourself?" "But you were always gone," she shouted. "You weren't home. Then why didn't you let me leave earlier, and why didn't you complain when I was home?" I asked, now calmly and with a sense of completion. I stood up. So did she. The chairs creaked in unison on the tile floor. Now, even though we were 2 steps away from each other, years of resentment lay between us like a lit fuse. "I raised our children," I said. "I took care of you and kept this house from falling apart while you posted your emojis on Instagram and ignored me, except to speak to me with discontent and sarcasm." She crossed her arms over her chest and looked away. I moved closer, lowering my voice again. "Did you even think about what this would do to me? To the children? Or were you just so desperate to feel needed that nothing else mattered?" She didn't answer. She just stood there, her chin trembling, her eyes moist. "I hope it was worth it," I said finally, "because you just ruined everything. I don't care what I get out of this as long as you get what you deserve. You won't have your reputation, your mother's respect, your perfect image. I'm taking it all away from you." With that, I left the room. I didn't slam the door. I didn't cry. I went upstairs and packed a bag with all the essentials, which gave me clarity. That night, I slept on a couch in the attic. In the morning, I sent screenshots of Emma and Matt's correspondence to her mother, then to Matt's wife, and finally to my lawyer. The aftermath. The next few weeks were tense. I paid for Emma to stay in a separate apartment while we started divorce proceedings, reasonably believing that the judge would look favorably on me for doing so, and that I hadn't just burned her alive. The kids understood what was going on. Being teenagers, they were mature enough to understand why their parents didn't want to live together. They took it surprisingly well, at least on the surface. Divorce was familiar to them, as they had several friends with divorced parents. The real problem arose, at least for me, when the court proceedings began. After the initial fact-finding stage, the judge requested counseling to determine whether our marriage could be saved. The peculiarity of South Carolina family law is that judges are primarily guided by their moral views and only then act as neutral arbitrators. Our first meeting took place on a Tuesday afternoon in October. From Dr. Levin's second-floor office window, there was a bleak view of a vacant lot with a few pine trees and lopsided, deciduous trees still clinging to their last leaves. We sat on opposite sides of a beige sofa like clients in a waiting room, not like spouses. Emma crossed her ankles and folded her arms across her chest. Looking at her, I involuntarily repeated her gesture. Even now, even after everything that had happened, part of me still responded to her body language, echoing her like a pitiful echo. Dr. Levin was a middle-aged man with a soft voice and glasses that slid down to the tip of his nose. He had the tired eyes of a man who had seen too many couples trying to save what was already burned. "This isn't about blame," he said softly. "It's about understanding what happened so we can decide how to move forward, together or separately." "Separately," I replied immediately. "There is no solution." Emma didn't flinch. It hit me harder than it should have. Dr. Levin nodded, wrote something down, and then asked her, "Emma, when did your emotional breakdown start?" "Not physical. Emotional." She didn't hesitate. 2 years ago?" I blinked. 2 years? She looked at me, not apologetically, just indifferently. "I started getting angry with you around then. You came home late. You were withdrawn during dinner. Our whole life boiled down to meeting you at work and seeing you off to work. We stopped dating as lovers. I became just a function, a mom, a planner, a bed partner when it was convenient." "But I was working," I replied, stunned. "For us. You were building the life we were supposed to dream of, but that's your opinion. You never once asked me if I was still happy. You just assumed that everything was fine with me." "I did ask you," I snapped. "You just said you were tired or everything's fine, or started talking on the phone while I was talking to you. And don't act like I ignored you." Dr. Levin raised his hand to diffuse the situation. Emma exhaled sharply. Then she asked, "You want honesty, right? Complete honesty?" "I want you to finally tell me the truth," I said. She turned to the therapist. "The night with Matt wasn't the first." A silence exploded in my ears and deafened me. "What?" She looked me straight in the eye, unflinching, no tears. "That message you found on my phone wasn't even the worst one. The one you found." My jaw clenched, my hands balled into fists. Dr. Levin's pen froze. I swallowed. "How many? Does it matter?" "How many, Emma?" She lowered her eyes, adjusting a loose thread on her sweater. 3. Over 2 years. I laughed. A bitter, incredulous laugh. "Were they all married, or was that just a nice bonus for Matt?" She didn't answer. "What about what you did with them?" I asked, my voice breaking. "Did you give them what you never gave me? What you called weird or disgusting, or said you didn't like? And you did it in our house? In our bed?" Emma finally looked up. "Because I didn't care how he looked at me." That hit me harder than anything else. I didn't have to show them who I really was in their eyes. I didn't have to worry about being a good wife or what they would think of me in the morning. With them, I could be selfish. With you, I couldn't. I leaned back, stunned, devastated. So I was just a deal, but with him you could be honest? I'm your husband, for fuck's sake? Do you have any idea how shitty that is? Now my voice was full of disbelief, as if a dam holding back anger, tears, and disbelief had burst. You saw me as your partner, your team. That sounds nice, she added, but it meant I stopped feeling like a woman. I felt like I was being watched. Praised when I played my part right. Punished with silence when I did something wrong. I stared at her, my mouth dry. So you wanted to feel like a whore? She didn't blink. Yes. And I didn't want to be ashamed of it. The therapist scribbled something in his notebook, then said something that was easy to forget. I wasn't listening. Everything I considered sacred, intimacy, boundaries, what belonged to us, was given away as if it were worthless. She didn't just cheat on me. She found a part of herself that she had never let me get close to, and then she shared it with strangers. There was nothing left to save. I couldn't hold on to her image. This wasn't the woman I married, not the mother of my children, just a stranger who had lived next to me for many years, hiding her face. As we left the session, she touched my hand lightly. You asked for the truth, she said. I gave it to you. I pushed her away. You gave me nothing, I said. You took everything away from me. Divorce. After counseling, Dr. Levin concluded that our marriage was over. The divorce was finalized in late April, 6 months after the counseling session that quietly destroyed what was left of us. The judge granted me joint legal custody and primary physical custody of the children. I kept the house. She got the car she wanted, a modest child support check, and visitation rights every weekend. It wasn't a clean win, but it was more than I expected. My lawyer showed the court screenshots that I'm sure helped, the ones with the dates, the timestamps, the things she wrote about what she liked and when. There was no going back. Emma barely looked at me during the hearing. When she did, there was no regret or anger on her face, just emptiness, as if she had been drained and was trying to remember how to pretend that wasn't the case. Her story didn't make headlines, but it wasn't a secret either. She lost her 3 closest friends, including Rachel, who moved back to Connecticut with her son and didn't speak to Emma until she crossed the state line. Emma's mother, the ever-judgmental matriarch, stopped coming to visit without warning. Emma called her a hypocrite. Her mother called her reckless and vulgar. She was too decent to use words like slut or whore. Rumors spread. A town like ours isn't cruel, but it's observant. Rumors circulated at parent-teacher conferences and community events. Suddenly, Emma no longer looked like the well-dressed, wine-loving suburban goddess that people admired. She became a cautionary tale, the one who slept with her friend's husband and then tried to rebuild her life from the ruins by clinging to unstable men and designer handbags. I kept my distance. I convinced myself that everything was fine. I smiled when the kids were around. I went to the gym more often, kept the house clean, and learned to cook more than just pasta and frozen meals. But behind closed doors, I drank too much. I didn't get drunk, just constant quiet drinking, mostly whiskey, sometimes rum, never beer. Beer seemed too fun to me. I wasn't having fun. The nights without the kids were the worst. The silence wasn't peaceful, it was accusatory. So I filled it with noise, music, podcasts, people I shouldn't have slept with. There weren't many of them, just those who were available on Tinder, Bumble, and late-night bar hookups. Some were single mothers, others were just bored women in their 30s and 40s who didn't need names, just confirmation of their rights. However, due to the threat of STDs, I had to start using condoms, which significantly reduced any fleeting pleasure. I told them almost nothing. They didn't ask. We had unremarkable sex in dark bedrooms, whispered about our children, work, or regrets, and then parted ways like business transactions. No mess, no traces, no judgment. And yet every morning after, I felt like a man climbing out of a hole only to fall back in even deeper. I saw her again at a birthday party. My daughter Mila was turning 7, Jenna, Mila's mom. Emma knew her. They had volunteered together at a school charity event a year before The Aftermath. I remembered Jenna as quiet. Tall, dark-haired, dark-eyed. The kind of graceful beauty that didn't need to announce itself. Not the flirtatious type. She was just that way. "Hi," she said, handing out cupcakes. "You're Sadie's dad, right?" "Yes, Michael," I said. "Are you Mila's mom?" She smiled. "Jenna." There was a pause. I expected her to look around, maybe not go into details, but she looked right at me. No pity, no smirk, just recognition. "I heard," she said. "I mean, not all the details. Just enough." I smiled dryly. "So there are 2 of us." Jenna tilted her head. "That sounds cold." "I've had time to think about it," I replied. We talked for 20 minutes while our daughters ran around the backyard. It wasn't flirting, at least not at first. It was just real, unfiltered, in a way that felt dangerous and comforting at the same time. At one point, I asked, "Are you still in touch with Emma?" Jenna let out a short, dry laugh. Number I stopped after the fundraiser, before everything came out. She never said, "Thank you," just criticized the decorations and took all the credit. I laughed. "Sounds familiar?" She handed me a carton of juice from the refrigerator. "Are you okay?" "No," I said, surprising myself, "but I think I'm starting to get the hang of it." The first night. It started 2 weeks later. Jenna and her daughter invited me and my kids to a movie night. Everything was normal. The girls watched Encanto for the 100th time, while we sat on either side of them, exchanging dry comments and quiet smiles. After the girls fell asleep, we cleaned up. I stayed to help. She poured wine. I had whiskey. I didn't want to say what I said, but it just came out. She did things with him that she never did with me. She made me feel like it was my fault, like I didn't deserve her. Jenna looked at me for a long time. Then she said, "Maybe it was her shame, not your absence." And then something changed. She didn't move toward me, and I didn't lunge at her, but the distance between us seemed to shrink on its own. "I'm not ready yet," I told her. She walked around the coffee table and stood in front of me. "Me neither." We kissed, slowly at first, tentatively, but it ended quickly. Her hands were in my hair, my palms wrapped around her waist. It was nothing like I'd felt with anyone else, just warmth, tension, honesty. She whispered, "Upstairs." I followed her. When I came to my senses after the best orgasm of my life, she smiled sweetly and said she wanted to help me experience more of what I hadn't been able to experience with my ex-wife. I pulled her into my arms and kissed her gently on the lips. She lay on my chest, her hair fanning out across my arm, and I expected the usual silence or polite dismissal. Instead, she said, "You know, you don't have to defeat someone's darkness to be loved." I didn't answer. I just kissed her, and we fell asleep. Emma's condition worsened. 2 weeks later, Emma didn't come to pick up the kids for the weekend. She didn't call or write. The children waited on the porch with their backpacks packed, their excitement giving way to confusion. I made up excuses. "She's running late. Maybe she's stuck in traffic." An hour later, I invited them out for ice cream. That evening, she sent me a message at 11:38 p.m. "I'm sorry. Something happened." No apology to them. Just the bare minimum, as if she were checking a box. Rachel texted me 2 days later. "Have you seen Emma lately? She's not doing well. She's been drinking a lot. She has a boyfriend who's basically moved in with her. He's 26. He rides a motorcycle and sells smoking blends. I didn't respond. I didn't need to know, but part of me still cared. Not in a romantic way. Not even in a protective way. It was more like watching someone you once loved slowly disappear because of someone else's mistake. She stopped going to school events. Her calls to the kids became less frequent. Birthdays were awkward. Our daughter asked me why Mom always sounds sleepy. I didn't make excuses for her anymore. I just told them that their mom was going through a difficult time, but that we would always be there for them. And we were. A new rhythm of life. Jenna didn't move in with us. We didn't want to label her. But she started coming over more often. The kids loved her. She managed to fit into our family rhythm without imposing anything. I liked that in the evenings, when the kids were with their grandparents, Jenna gave me her all. She gave me everything Emma would never give me. Everything. We were honest about our desires and preferences and allowed each other to explore ourselves and each other, not only sexually but emotionally as well. We didn't talk much about Emma. Once she asked if I had ever thought about taking her back. No, I replied. Not even the version of her that came before. That version never really attracted me. Jenna nodded. That's fair. Sex with Jenna became more than just a release for me. That's when I stopped pretending. I let my wounds show. She didn't need me to heal. She didn't want me to shine. She wanted me to be honest, and I gave her that. There were still bad nights. Nights when I drank too much, when I almost wrote something bitter to Emma just to feel heard. But those nights became fewer and fewer. And when they did come, Jenna didn't try to fix me. She just stayed, supported me when I needed it, gave me space when I wanted to be alone. And gradually, the wreckage stopped defining me. Emma's epilogue. The last time I saw Emma face to face was at a parent-teacher conference. She looked thin, older. All that was left was her shadow in designer sunglasses and a forced smile. When she saw Jenna next to me, her face fell. We didn't exchange a word, just glances. Later that evening, Jenna asked, "Do you think she regrets everything?" I had been thinking the same thing. I think she regrets getting caught. But I don't think she ever really wanted what we had back. She just didn't know how to leave until she blew up. Jenna nodded. She took my hand. What about you? I regret not leaving sooner. Then she kissed me, slowly and confidently, as if she had known me longer than she actually had. And for the first time in 2 years, I believed that I could be whole again. Not because someone had healed me, but because I had finally stopped giving my pieces to the wrong person.